Hey guys, so it's already the second week of September and I thought I'd give you a garden tour. So this is a late summer garden tour. I actually don't really love garden tours this time of year because everything is so overgrown, starting to dry out, getting to the end of its life. But for those of you that are wanting to garden, especially wanting to garden in Nebraska, I'll give you an idea of what you can expect and an idea of some things that you actually can be just starting and growing this time of year. So let's go. First thing we have here are sweet potatoes, and they are massive. They're actually taking up 2 rows now and spilling well outside of the bed as well. I will not dig these until right before the first frost. So I'll be watching the weather starting next month and seeing when we're going to get below freezing, because I want to dig these up before then. And I'm excited to see what we have under there, so I will make sure I record that process to see how well they have done. And then next to it was a potato row. But I went ahead and planted Brussels sprouts, and unfortunately for them, the sweet potatoes decided it was their row, and so I pushed them back quite a few times, but even then they're still getting choked out by the sweet potatoes. Down at the other end where there aren't sweet potatoes, they're doing a little bit better. We'll go look at that. So here are the Brussels sprouts that are not getting choked out by sweet potatoes because their neighbor is strawberries on both sides. So they're doing a lot better. Obviously something thinks they're really, really tasty, but they're still growing just fine with all those holes in their leaves. The next thing we have are my ever-bearing strawberries, and I have never had strawberries do as well as they are doing right now. I just picked, on Friday, I picked 3.5 gallons of strawberries. You guys ever had this happen with your ever-bearing strawberries? It is just amazing what they are doing and how many strawberries are still on these plants and how many are still developing to the point where blooms are just finishing up and some are still blooming. Like, I've never grown strawberries this well before, and I think this one needs to be eaten today. It looks delicious. But yeah, this is 500, maybe 600. I think they sent us a lot extra strawberries of the everbearing, so they are doing really, really well. Next thing we have is my row of zucchini, and they are also doing wonderful still. I get probably anywhere between 6 and 11 zucchini every day. So the chickens are getting their fill, I'm getting my fill, my farm stand has them every day. I've frozen a lot of them. We can eat 3 of them for supper easy, so it's definitely worth having them. We enjoy them. Then we have our flowers, which we have bumblebees, honeybees, moths. I even see what looks like a sphinx moth right there. So these are being food for all sorts of things in the garden. There's actually 2 of those big moths and bumblebees galore. I don't know if you guys can see these. Hold still. I see honeybees and other little bugs too. Butterflies. Yeah, definitely helpful in the garden. Then we have some more sweet potatoes that didn't fit in the other row, followed by celosia. Our sunflowers are done. And our green beans, I would say, have not had a stellar year, but I've still canned, I want to say, about 40 quarts of them. And so they seem to have some sort of rusty type of disease, and as that gets worse, just pull the plant out. So that's our beans. And then this row, it was onions, and we pulled them out, most of them except for at the very end. But I have peas in here, and I have not staked them. I've done that many years with peas, and it's not the best, but we make do with it. I have parsley growing on both sides here. A little bit further down I have some basil, and down further than that I have cilantro planted alongside these peas, and I'm actually seeing pods on these. These are all shelling peas, so I really wanted some to put in the freezer for the winter. And this spring I only planted a few shelling peas, so this fall that is all I've planted. So they're not anywhere near ready to pick. They're not snow peas, so we'll let them develop for a while. But that's good. They've got a good start. And then our carrots that I haven't harvested in a while. Lots of them went to bloom. Lots of carrots still. We'll walk down to that end and show you what's there. Okay, I cannot remember if this is broccoli or cabbage, but we have one of the 2 here, and then the other one is over there. So broccoli and cabbage. And over here we have beets, and I'm not a fan of beets, but I thought I'd try it, see how it goes. I do know a family member that likes them that I can give them to. And then we planted some more radishes, and we ate some, but we've been so busy that we didn't harvest them. And these radishes, I'm sure they're beyond edible, but they are huge. That's just crazy. Radishes didn't get that big. So I thought that was funny. Here's my son's tomatoes. Lots of cherry tomatoes. People weren't buying them at the stand. They're a ton of work to pick, and there's only so many we can eat, so most of them get left on there. Then we have our melon garden in here, and some of them are dying back. The watermelon have been dying back, and some of them are doing great. Like this is pumpkin here, and that's the little orange pumpkins in there. Beyond it, there's butternut squash and spaghetti squash, and then the weeds over here are really terrible because the pumpkin grew all up in the grass, so I couldn't mow, and it was hard to weed. But there are little sugar pumpkins in there for eating, so I will harvest those as the season goes on and freeze a lot of them. Here is our brand new asparagus bed that we planted this spring, and the asparagus is doing great. And then I planted some cucumbers in the middle of them to try to help with weed, smothering out the weeds anyways. And I quit picking these cucumbers about a week ago, and so they're getting a little bit big. Part of me wishes I had more time, but I've done all the pickles I can with the time that I have. Other things need my attention right now, so I just had to let these go. And then the newest addition to our garden is our strawberry field. We have 11 rows. One of them was extra just in case we had extra plants, but it looks like we're going to have just about enough to fill up the 10 rows that we had anticipated and ordered. So we're giving them a good soaking now, since we just got them all in the ground in the last 2 days. So it doesn't look like much, but as they grow, I'll try to keep you updated. At some point we'll hopefully do a video of the whole process from the beginning to the berries that we should get next spring. Some of them have already put on some new leaves, some of the earliest planted ones, so that's kind of fun to see. They've only been in the ground 2.5 days, and they're trying to grow. So here we are where our farm stand is, and we'll take a look at this garden. These are the strawberries that we have planted in this raised bed here at home. Most of them are the Albion, the same as the ones we have over there at the other place. And we do have some berries on here. They're a lot smaller, and they haven't produced nearly as many. And I think one of the biggest reasons is probably water, because the raised bed is harder to keep wet, and I don't have any irrigation system set up in this bed. I think the other reason is we didn't pick runners, and so they're allowed to fill in this whole place, and therefore they're just not getting the nutrients that the other ones get. So we still get strawberries, but this is not the way we're going to grow them in the future. Here I have cabbage that I planted this spring, and I should have picked it before now. I run out of time. So I do want to pick these. I want to try homemade runzas. Hopefully these will hang on for me and give me the opportunity to try that. This bed used to have broccoli and cabbage, and then I took that out and I planted lettuces, and then they bolted because it was hot. So I've just left them here for now. They're blooming and going to seed, which is kind of fun, but I will pull these out and I will try some more, probably spinach here in a little bit as the weather cools off. We still had a day that was 97 last week, so it's just not the best lettuce and spinach weather. However, if you want salad greens any time of the year, it seems to be Swiss chard. This is brand new for me to grow Swiss chard this year. It did great early in the spring. It's done great through the heat all summer, and it's doing great here coming up on fall. Now, things have been eating it, and it's maybe not the prettiest, but you could use it for salad. Definitely a useful plant to grow that's not as picky about the weather as spinach is. Here we have my Minnesota Midget melons, and we were really excited about them at first. I love that they trellis and they grow and they're growing big. However, they just don't have the same texture as the other cantaloupe. So maybe you bought some at my stand and noticed that. It's still edible. It just has a little more mushy of a texture, and we don't like it as well. So I probably won't grow these again in the future. This bed currently has some cilantro that's going to seed, so it'll be coriander. And then I have the dill that I have harvested to make my dill pickles. Then I have my cucumbers, which were an experiment, and I don't understand why they have all these scars all over them. So they have not been very successful. I'm sure they're still edible. I just don't like cucumbers, and I don't think they're good enough to sell at my stand. So they're just sitting on here. Then I have some onions that are still growing, and then we have celery, which I definitely need to pick and harvest and do something with. This was my carrot bed, and I threw a pumpkin in here to see if maybe it has time to produce something before it's too cold for it to thrive anymore. Our raspberries are going crazy right now. They are producing. I try to get out here and pick them every day, but I didn't yesterday, and I didn't today because we take Sunday mornings off from picking. But there's a lot of raspberries on there, and because they grow out into the grass, we can't mow up against them this time of year, so the grass gets kind of tall, and it looks sloppy, but it's producing a lot of food. Okay, I do not like this bed. It is overcome with weeds despite us knocking the weeds back so many times. But I planted a pumpkin in there. It's blooming, so I don't know if we'll get, these are supposed to be the bigger pumpkins, the jack-o'-lantern pumpkins. I don't know if we'll get them in time for Halloween. I was late planting them this year. The kids like carving them, so I like to grow a few. But then I have my okra, and I still have yet to eat one. I pick them off as they get too big, but I haven't had time to figure out what I'm going to do with them since we've never actually eaten okra other than fried okra at a restaurant one time. This garden looks like a massive jungle. It kind of is right now. Here's my tomatoes. Remember, my trellis system did not work. They broke the strings, and so they're just growing however they feel like it. And they make it difficult to pick, but they're still growing. Actually, in fact, my tomatoes are ripening like crazy right now. Let's see if I can show you in there. We have a lot of ripe tomatoes. It's the time of year for making salsa. Then we have my peppers with random tomato plants thrown in there. I won't do that again. They got way bigger than I expected them to do. But we have a lot of great peppers. See our bell peppers in there. We have jalapenos, banana peppers, Anaheim. We have some of the hot chili peppers to make like red pepper flakes or chili powder with. And then I'll let this car go by. Then we have lima beans. And for some reason, I have great intentions every year of growing lima beans. And then when all the rest of the garden is going crazy, they're the ones that get the least amount of time. So we have put a few in the freezer, but we didn't harvest them like we should have, and you can see some of them are drying down in there already. The next crop that I'm really excited about is our apples. We're pretty sure these are Fuji, even though we planted them 13 years ago. Sorry, the traffic can be loud here, but I don't think they're not quite ready. They're getting closer. So we are excited to have some apples. They don't look like they're going to be very big, but it's better than what we get most years, which is nothing. So we are excited about this harvest. Okay, so I think in every other garden tour, I've forgotten to show you this garden. This is my husband's melon garden, and he takes care of this entirely on his own. So I don't think about it very often. I did help him start these plants inside, but then he takes care of the watering, and we have weed barrier down, which helps with the weeds. But This is where most of our good cantaloupe has come from. And then we have watermelon in here. So you can see we have the yellow variety here. So we have one that's looking like it's almost ripe, and one is just starting to ripen. And so I kind of like that because it's easy to tell when it's ripe. And then I think these green ones are called Stone Mountain. And then we also have some, I think it's Crimson Sweet back there, that's your traditional striped looking watermelon. And then in the back is our old asparagus bed. This is what we've been eating on, and we've had it planted here for about 13 years now. So at this point, you just let them grow. And then this winter, we cut them back. And then this spring, up come the little shoots that we will eat. And it's one of the first things we eat from our garden every year. So we love our asparagus bed. Last thing I thought I would show you was our corn. My husband planted 4 different plantings of corn. So the first one, you can't even see because most of them are falling over. Then the second one, the third one, we just froze most of that. And the fourth one is still going. So we get to eat that one here when it's ready. And I don't know, I can see that the tops are turning, so it won't be too much longer. So we like to have our corn spread out throughout the year and not all at once because we love to eat it fresh. Lastly, I thought I'd show you the baby chicks and how they're grown. They're little mini chickens right now. They've grown so much, she still thinks she can ride on her mom. Oh, there she is, trying to get a piggyback ride. They're growing. Mom's getting lower and lower as she walks because her babies get a little heavy on her back, I think. We're going to try to integrate them back in with the rest of the flock here pretty soon, so that this winter hopefully they're in the big coop and can stay warm with the rest of them.